And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, along with Ryan Holmes. We are podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. This is really nice because when you get nighttime now, it gets a little that cool weather where you can still sit on the back porch, do what you want to do out there. This has been I can't even imagine a week like this for the Raiders. So we'll get into it, and we'll get into. This isn't first take. This isn't Colin Cowherd. We're not spending an hour on this subject. So, but we will talk for our fans of who want to hear about what we feel about Gruden, and who want to hear about what we say about football. We'll be here for all that as well. 858-299-5592 is a text line. We have a lot of questions off that text line. Thank you guys for doing that. Right beneath us, right beneath our little boxes, we have our Twitter handle, so definitely hit us up on Twitter as well. Boston, Massachusetts, Hartford, Connecticut, Atlanta, Georgia, Inglewood, always up to no good, and Carlsbad, California are listening to the Put on Raiders podcast. Ryan, how are you?
I feel a little emotionally drained. I was at that game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Walking out of the stadium and then everything that happened on Monday. It's a lot to take in as a Raider fan.
Yeah.
We've been through a lot and it doesn't seem to end. It seems to be a ride that something is always lurking around the corner, and it's been that way for quite some time.
And it's the reason why so many fans and I can't blame them for being cynical when things start to go well, so I can't get mad at them for that at all as far as that goes. Your thoughts about Gruden? I'm gonna set a 10-minute timer. This is the first and 10 episode of this show. We're not gonna go whole 90 minutes, the whole hour or whatever on Gruden. We can't do that. That's just not who we are. Your thoughts about Gruden and this whole mess that he not only brought himself into, but the guy has kids, and the guy has a wife, and the guy has family, extended family. I mean, that last name is gonna be looked at a whole lot differently now in the world of football.
Definitely. I was a fan when they brought him back. I followed the Raiders during Gruden's first tenure. So I welcomed him back with open arms. But after we found out what he said in some of those emails and how he felt towards a certain group of people, you can't have that type of guy as a leader of an organization and a leader of men. He's in a locker room that's full of diversity and inclusion. They have Carl Nassib, who's the only open gay player in the league, and some of the comments he made about the commissioner, and then as well as female referees that we have in the game now. And the Raiders have always stood for diversity and inclusion. So at first, when you text me on Friday, I was out of cell phone range, and you're like, "Hey, what do you think about the emails?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then when I started looking at it, on Friday I was kind of torn, how to feel about it. And then as Monday came, and we saw the breadth of the emails and everything that was said in it, that the Raiders had no choice but to move forward without John Gruden, contract or not. My feelings of him as a coach or not, he needs to be a leader of men and needs to get in front of people from all sort of walks in life, different races, and he has to lead them, and he has to build trust with them. That's the biggest thing. I don't think those players could trust anything he said going forward. This might be the spark the Raiders need. Maybe it opens up the conservativeness on offense just by letting Derek Carr and Greg Olsen just go at it. Maybe they mix up the run game. There's a lot of positives that could come out of this, but we're gonna find out on Sunday. When they kick the ball off on Sunday, if this thing's 14-0 in the first quarter and we see kind of another lackluster effort, that's not a good sign. But it could be a rallying point for the team to come together. We've seen players on Instagram support Gruden. KJ Wright did it. I saw an interview with Justina Anderson, Trayvon Mullen. So it explains a little bit of what probably went on Sunday during the game, sitting in the stands, trying to figure out why, the offense was all over the place, guys running the wrong routes, guys not blocking, guys missing assignments. So it definitely weighed on the players, I would think. Going back and watching the tape, it looked like, effort wasn't an issue, but you could see guys were just off. There was something that was out of sync the whole game on offense. And that's what Coach Gruden was in charge of. So, maybe there was some second thoughts, but the team's going to have to move on quickly. They have 12 games left to play. So we'll see how they respond.
And I think with Mike Mayock did say, like, hey, usually when stuff like this happens, it's like, it's week 15. they're a game out of first. They're a game out of first place. Like, I mean, this is like things can change dramatically. I know, Staley is a toast of the town in Los Angeles, and he probably can't buy himself dinner out there in LA right now. But at the end of the day, I mean, everybody's one injury away from being, where the Seattle Seahawks are right now, right, Ryan? So the thing with me and Gruden was, the thing that really, I mean, obviously for me, African American male, like the questioning the intelligence of Demise, now I can't say his name.
Smith, yeah.
The more Smith really bothered me a lot. Because obviously, I mean, me just working in a lot of different areas in my life, I always have to show and really articulate my intelligence to people, because people, you kind of gotta overdo it when you're a person of color sometimes, and in those moments. And I just don't understand a gentleman who's had so much good fortune in his life, dream job after dream job after dream job. There's only 32 jobs in the National Football League. Whether you're a coordinator, worked in Philadelphia, worked in worked for Holmgren, worked for so many great individuals, and had so much hate in his heart. That's that thing that just drove me crazy about the whole Gruden thing. It's like, dude, like you had these are some prime jobs. You could affect people's lives in like so many positive ways, and this is what you spew about people. It was gross. It was gross on his part. It was on his part. But I remember I used to work in a juvenile prison, and one of the guys who used to work there used to always say, he wasn't the first person to say it, obviously, but what you do in the dark always comes to light. And it came to light. It came to light in a harsh way. And that name is no longer in the Ring of Honor, no longer in Madden football, no longer in the lores of like, Chucky and all this other stuff, and, Skechers. No more Skechers now. Easy money. Like the easy money's gone. Like, where you put on a pair of shoes and you're out in public, that money's gone now. Like, it's just really, to me, the sadding part of it to me is like, I'll never understand hating a group of people who have in so many ways, the Keyshawn Johnsons, the Tim Browns, the Carl Nassifs of the world, who just worked so hard to make you look good and to be part of what your program was, and you still just harbored those kind of issues towards it. It just kind of made me like kind of sick to my stomach to really, I was really emotionally drained this week. I can't imagine what Mark Davis and Mayock and that whole crew was going through right now.
No, definitely. You could talk about the coaching staff too. He brought Bisaccia and Bradley and Olsen and all these guys over.
Cable. Yeah,
and Cable. So, no, it's a difficult situation. Like I said, it's about trust. Those players, and Gruden's always been good talking to guys and pumping them up and telling them what they need to hear. But they how can they trust what he's saying to their face, not knowing what he's doing behind closed doors? And now we got to peek behind the curtain, and it's an issue. Like Darren Waller talked about it today. Like he mentioned when he was talking about Carl Nassif, he had some nice quotes in there about just, being able to trust what's being told to you. And I don't think those players could trust John Gruden anymore. And once you lose the trust of the locker room, it doesn't matter how good a coach you are, what you believe about if he was a good coach or not. It was time to go. Yeah. And this may be a blessing in disguise. To me, it's more about.
I was going to say this. Go ahead.
It's more about the decision-making on the roster. I don't know if there's going to be any more Cleve Farrells or Alex Leatherwoods or Damon Arnett draft picks. Hopefully Mike Mayock proves his worth and can stay around. I don't know what's going to happen. 12 games down the line, a lot can happen. So we'll see. These guys are going to be coaching for their lives. The only instance I can think of where an interim coach came in and had any success would be Bruce Arians when he took over for the Colts, but that was a different situation. Chuck Pagano had cancer. The team kind of rallied around it.
Yep.
Usually, like you said, it's week 14, week 15. The coach gets let go, and in comes someone just to coach 3 games. So this is uncharted waters for everybody. All the players, all the executives, the scouts that are in the building, the coordinators, the quality control guys, the marketing department. So there's a lot going on in Las Vegas. The Mark Davis needs to figure out quickly who's the team president, who are the business executives going to be. Does he
Yeah.
keep the general manager? And for me, it was disappointing that Mark Davis didn't get in front of a microphone today and at least speak. You know, these are guys that he hired, Jack Del Rio, who had to announce his own firing post game in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
He hired John Gruden and said it was the best day of his life when that happened. He needs
Mm.
to show some leadership, in my opinion, and he needs to get in front of a microphone and answer questions, whether he wants to or not. Like, the leadership of this organization is being shown right now. And if you're a free agent and you're out there considering, do I want to play for the Raiders next year? And you see kind of what the way this is being handled, to me, that it's an issue. I think Mark Davis needs to talk.
Yeah, I do think he needs to talk. I don't think there's any question about it. I think this is a very, when he said it was a big effing deal when it happened, like this is even a bigger one because you have to be. I think he definitely he's going to come forward and talk to the media. It's just, I mean, for him, I think for him, it's just, he's probably, I mean, the guy's been tired of being embarrassed. Like, he's been embarrassed a lot of different times in his professional life. And he thought for at least one time he got it right. I mean, this year was going to be the year, all this stuff. I mean, to me, the NFL didn't do him any favors by having this in June and July, and didn't
Late June, yeah.
and late June, and then doing it, they're 3-2 in the regular season and just dropped this bombshell on this organization. That didn't do. I mean, that was horrible to see that happen for him. Maybe it would have been better if they did it in the off. They did it as soon as they had it. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna as a whole of the show how and why when this was dropped off. Why the receivers of these emails, who obviously co-signed these thoughts, are not gonna face retribution. We're talking about all this, woman power in the National Football League, and there's an owner in Washington right now who could definitely use some help getting out of the building. But we'll see what happens as far as that goes. But we'll see. We'll see what happens as far as that goes. Let's go into who's taking over, right? Who's taking over? Like Basaccio. Okay. Basaccio is going to be the new head coach right now for the Raiders. I would say the defensive calls will still be Gus Bradley. The offensive calls would be Greg Olsen, Ole, as everybody likes to call him. What are your thoughts about that, first of all? And then let's just get into who our favorites are. We'll have the whole offseason talk about it, but who are our favorites to kind of take over the reins for the Raiders in the future?
I see. Yeah, this might take a long while to answer, but my first thought is, promoting the special teams coordinator is good because it's evolved with the whole roster. To me, I probably would have leaned more Gus Bradley, because if you look in the grand scheme of things, I believe Gus Bradley, who has head coaching experience, probably is the best fit on that staff moving forward if this team has success to being the head coach next year. So if you want to flip forward to January of next year, I think out of the guys that are involved on this coaching staff, Bradley's the only one, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, that has a chance to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders in 2022. I don't know if he was asked and he said no. If he was promoted, then you'd have to figure out who's calling the defensive plays, because I don't know of a defensive-minded coach that actually calls the defense, other than maybe Belichick at times. So maybe the Raiders were looking at that. I think even if the Raiders make the playoffs, that Rich Bisaccia probably is not the coach of this team in 2022.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. Hopefully they make the playoffs and I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. So keeping Bradley in place to call the defense, I think is okay at this point, because it doesn't mess up a good thing that's going on. Now, fixing the offense is a totally different issue. My opinion is Olsen probably, this is going to open up a little bit for Derek Carr. Derek Carr now has to prove himself. He has 12 games to prove that he's the quarterback of this team next year. And what can he do without Gruden? Do they open up the offense and cater it more to Derek and get out of the heavy personnel in the running? Or do they spread it out? Do they go 11 personnel, a lot more? Do they just eliminate 23, 22 personnel and become a passing team? Does the identity of this offense now change? I think it does. I think that they're going to turn more into a passing team Because the only way that Rich Bisaccia and Greg Olson and these guys have a chance to be around next year is they're going to have to win football games. And right now, the only way they're going to win football games is throwing the ball around the yard and getting everyone involved. There are some, to me, I tweeted out 5 names. Now, those weren't my names. I got a lot of questions on Twitter, a lot of backlash on some of the candidates. I just think that's 5 guys the Raiders are going to have interest in. To me, clearly, number one, if I was choosing, is Brian Dable. I'd love to talk to him coming over from Buffalo, what he's done with Josh Allen, how he's kind of transformed that offense, what he's done with the weapons they have there. I think he'd be a good fit as an offensive mind to come in. I always lean offense because for me, the one thing you don't want in the National Football League, if you bring in a defensive guy, let's use Brian Flores as an example, good defensive mind, can run a defense. What have they done on offense there? He has a new offensive coordinator every year. The quarterback's got to learn a new system every year. You want to avoid that. The marriage should be between the coach and the quarterback. And to me, the best way to do that is you have an offensive-minded guy who's calling plays. And most coaches that are offensive-minded do call the plays. So I lean that way. Now, having said that, I would definitely, if I was running the Raiders, I'd want to talk to Todd Bowles. I think he got a raw deal with the Jets. I think he's a good coach. He can really run a defense. And what is he going to do with a good quarterback if Derek Carr's still around? So a lot of names that are being thrown out. Joe Brady, to me, I'm not a Joe Brady guy yet. I just did a deep dive into the Carolina Panthers offensive stats. They're ranked 20th to 25th the last 2 years in pretty much every category. That offense is in the bottom third of the league. I know what he did at
Go ahead.
I know what he did at LSU, but he had Jamar Chase, he had Justin Jefferson, he had Joe Burrow, he had a good offensive line, he had Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He hasn't really proven it in the NFL. So he's a young guy with no head coaching experience who hasn't proven it in the NFL level. I would pass on that personally. I had a lot of people question me on that one. And on the flip side, I would talk to Doug Pederson. I mean, he won a Super Bowl not too long ago. I know that he got run out of Philadelphia, but that was more him clashing with the owner over Carson Wentz. And you know what?
He was right.
Pederson was probably right.
He was.
Talk to him. I know he's got a relationship with Mayock. They're both East Coast guys. He learned he was in Green Bay forever under Holmgren as a quarterback, and then he learned under Andy Reid. So talk to him, bring him in. Another candidate to me is Eric Bieniemy. Now, I don't know what the domestic violence stuff he has in his past, but like Colorado is something that Mark Davis is going to look past. I'm going to think he won't. I'll put him on the list, but I think that's someone that probably won't end up with the Raiders. So those are kind of the names that I would think of. Now, the Raiders aren't going to be the only opening. I know a lot of fans out there are saying, well, to think that they're going to get the cream of the crop and the number one choice. There's a good chance there's going to be 5 or 6 openings at the end of the year. And the Raiders are going to be battling other organizations for these candidates. But if they could bring in a Brian Dable, and ideally it's someone that's willing to work with Gus Bradley, because I think they should do whatever they can to keep him around into the future, because he's a good defensive coordinator. He's already proven his worth, 5 games into the season. The defense, and he's found roles for some of these guys. So bring in an offensive coach that's willing to keep, clearly, in my opinion, the defense coordinator Gus Bradley in place, and Ron Miles and those guys, and just see what they can do moving forward. And to me, I would make the change even if they do make the playoffs, because I don't think Rich Bisaccia is the answer long term.
I mean, I agree with a lot of the names you said. I think that the thing with Eric Bieniemy is following him wherever he goes. It is somebody texted me jokingly, said, geez, both your college team and your pro team need a head coach for next year. Which is kind of crazy as well. Couple, maybe a guy like Kevin O'Connell from the Rams offensive, from the Rams staff. Anything that touches McVay, people want to be a part of. As far as that goes, I think the name I would say, before you get mad about different names, because I know when the Raiders were looking for a defensive coordinator, it was Gus. Some fans wanted Gus Bradley, some fans wanted Wade Phillips. If you don't, this sport is about relationships. Only Vrabel does this, where didn't even know LaFleur, and he hired him as a head coach. If it's not a relationship, if you can't find a relationship there, you're probably not going to see that guy be the head coach. Especially if and the one thing about Mayock stood pretty strong today. I kind of appreciated what he did today. I know it was a tough spot for him, and that's really that's going to be hard. I mean, he's pretty much the most. I mean, and obviously he must not have been in that circle of foolishness or conversation with John about those subjects because he wouldn't be there. They'd have to let him go as well. And so he kind of stood tall today and kind of represented the organization. I kind of give him credit for that. He gets to run the show and do it himself and get his guy in there. I think most likely it'd probably be somebody. I mean, I think Dable would be a guy who I'd be excited about. I think one other name that I hear coming up a lot is Kellen Moore, but then you have to look at the pot. See, the only thing about I know some people like Kellen Moore, but is Kellen Moore and Dable we'll have all season to do a real deep dives into both of those pieces of head coaching real estate of OC head coaching real estate. Do they both have top 10 quarterbacks? And that's what, and then are we overlooking that? I mean, they both have really talented rosters on offense as well. So we'll have to see. I got to look at their playbooks and see what's going on as far as that with all 22, if the NFL ever releases that, in a timely fashion. There's no short, even if there are 3 or 4 jobs, 5 jobs available, Ryan, there is no shortage of good candidates in my mind. And I think the one thing that people didn't like about the Gruden hire was Mark Davis circumventing the Rooney Rule and just jumping on John Gruden. And I think especially you're seeing a lot of kind of African-American media definitely jumping on that. Listen, everybody should go. The point of the Rooney Rule is they had no intention of even taking Mike Tomlin seriously, and look what happened when they got in the building. He owned the building, he owned the meeting, and he ended up being head coach in National Football League. So we'll see what happens. We'll do a deep dive to see what we can find as far as the relationships between Mike Mayock and this guy. But I do think for this round, I think that Mark Davis is going to let the GM pick the team because he picked the last 2 guys. And, number one, you're right. He shouldn't have announced his own firing, even though I'm not a Del Rio fan. And Mark should have spoke today. I don't think he's a coward like Tashawn Reed put out there. I think that's a little much. I mean, let's look at the background of the situation. But of why he probably didn't speak today. I think he'll definitely speak, and people have their chance at Mark Davis. But I think that's pretty much it as far as that goes. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. We have a lot of time to talk about it. I do want to see KC. If you're thinking about Bieniemy, I want to see KC get out of this rut where somebody plays 3 safeties and they can't move the football. Somebody plays cover 2, they can't move the football. That's kind of weird to me. He should be able to, with that weapon. I mean, can they develop another guy besides Tyreek Hill? Why are they signing Josh Gordon? You know what I'm saying? They have players who they should be able to move the football, and they're really struggling right now. But we'll see about that.
I would add on the Kellen Moore front. I don't know if they really need to go find the 32, 33-year-old next supposed offensive genius, because as well as that offense is playing this year, he had an opportunity last year without Dak Prescott, and we got to see what he could do with Andy Dalton with those same weapons. Not saying Andy Dalton's a good quarterback, but that offense was hard to watch last year when Dak Prescott wasn't the quarterback.
Just be decent in that spot. Yeah, he wasn't decent at all. Yeah.
One name I'd throw out there, and this one I'll give my brother credit. He's been throwing this one at me, and he's really deep in the college side of football. He keeps telling me that Jeff Hafley is a great coach at Boston College. And Boston College is where Mike Mayock went to school. And, just doing some research on Jeff Hafley, he has spent 7 or 8 years in the NFL, and he's coached in college he was at Ohio State. He's the head coach now at Boston College, but he coached with the Cleveland Browns. He's coached with the 49ers. So he's kind of bounced around. He's worked for Kyle Shanahan. He's worked for Chip Kelly. I don't know a ton about him, but that's just another name that I'm going to probably
he wouldn't be – So he wouldn't be. He's not your typical college coach. He spent a lot of time in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm on their website right now, and he's been in college for 11 years, and he spent 7 in the NFL. So he's kind of bounced back and forth, but you never know with the ties Mike Mayock has, it could be someone that could at least get an interview.
Yeah, interesting. Should be cool. Hopefully they can figure that out. You might have cap room. I don't know what they're gonna do with. I don't know what kind of demands they don't. I mean, Carr is signed for 22, right? But it's but you want to have him. You want to sign him. You want to either sign him long term or have him play it out, and maybe
that's kind of my other thing with the coaching position is a lot of these names have never been head coaches before, and I'm always in to give the young guy a chance that's earned it and maybe the next star. But the way this roster's built right now, we're in year 4 of a rebuild. You have a quarterback who's in his early 30s. You have a roster that's built kind of to win now. Do you really want to bring in a guy but doesn't have head coaching experience? That may want to get rid of some of these pieces and set it back, or do you want to go all in and bring in a guy who has experience? Like Doug Pederson to me is the example here, and just see if he can pick it up and go and try to win now. Yeah. You're in a division with Mahomes and Herbert for the next 10, 12, 13 years.
Score points. Yeah. He did. Like I said, he did score almost 50 points against Belichick in the Super Bowl. And they're throwing the football down the field consistently. So, I think that would be a name that I thought about that name immediately because I thought about, just him coming in and doing that. That'd be interesting to see what happens as far as that goes. But Doug Pederson could definitely be a guy who the Raiders consider. You weren't lying, and you never do about watching that Bears all 22. Ooh, oh boy, wow,
that was a tough watch.
That was a tough watch, boy. And then you can tell that it was. People were upset. I think when I knew it was pretty much kind of over or done with is when I saw Waller go across the middle and drop one, and I was like, oh yeah, this is really not good. This game's over. This game might be over as far as that goes. But was it really? Now that we see all this stuff, this team had a lot hanging over its head. It seemed like it's just kind of a foggy game for them. But still no excuse as far as the offensive line goes. That clip will be forever when them blocking each other. You can't make that up. Then I thought the Raiders this week, didn't they have a bunch of different now that since Gruden left, they had a bunch of tryouts as far as our guys come in and try to see what they can do with the offensive line. I think he's gonna, because they're in a new building, because they're in a new building, because they're trying to win now. You see them maybe trying to make a move before that deadline to try to shore up some of these pieces here on the offensive line, because I'm not counting. I don't care what week they say Incognito's coming back. Just put him on IR for the year. He's going to play one down and get hurt again.
Yeah, I clearly think Mike Mayock's going to make a move here. And in my opinion, it's going to be in the next 2 weeks as they enter the bye to try to shore up that offensive line. Because let's face it, like I said, everyone in that building is coaching for their job right now. Now the question is Mark Davis going to give him the ability to trade future draft assets to improve the team this year? My guess is yes, because he wants to keep fans coming into that building. So they need to scour right now and figure out what offensive linemen are available. Dangle Cleveland Farrell for some offensive linemen, maybe a tackle or a guard. At this point, it doesn't matter if it's a tackle, a guard, or a center. Just get a lineman, get someone in here. Watching the all 22 of the clip you mentioned, I think it was just a nice line stunt where the defensive tackles went to the left. It looks like they were trying to do some version of duo where they're trying to double both of those guys. And then, clearly the guards worked to the second level because there was no one left in those gaps. Mm-hmm. But the timing with the double teams, the zone stuff's really not working because the timing's just not there with those interior 3 guys. Yeah. When to double, when to push up to the second level. And then when you watch the Bears on offense versus the Raiders defense, they were moving, their zone stuff was pretty good. There was cutback lanes. They were washing down the defensive tackles. That's what you'd want the Raiders offensive line to look like on video. But
the other Herbert was killing us in that game.
Yeah, I really think they should just go back to more power at this point. That's what those guys are better at. They get their better runs off, counters, pulling guards, G lead, those kind of things. You can still run some zone. But I just don't think that the guys they have right now are good at it. I don't think, James is clearly struggling against power. And again, the Bears put a zero technique over him. Every team has done it through 5 weeks. So they're going to have to figure out how to fix that. Colton Miller's not great in the run game as far as a run blocker. Leatherwood, I thought Leatherwood looked better inside. I thought he had some really good reps, and then clearly the holding penalties were a problem, and then Parker I thought played okay. Clearly he got beat by Khalil Mack on a play, but it's the 2 false starts and then the holding penalty. The Raiders got called for 7 holding penalties on offense. Most of them deserved. And Foster Moreau again getting beat. So maybe we see Nick Bowers, but the other way to fix this is let's go spread and throw the short passing game, take chances down the field, and just let Derek Carr try to move the ball down the field. The interesting thing on the All-22 is watching the game plan. I thought it was a really weird game plan where they were running a lot of double moves, out and ups, some longer developing routes versus a team that had the most sacks in the NFL coming in. You knew they were going to get pressure, and they had Khalil Mack. And the Raiders' game plan didn't really match up with the personnel they had. That line wasn't going to hold up.
Do you think that he felt like, and I thought about this because somebody else said that, do you think that they did that because he felt like, hey, you know what? I need a couple of big plays on these drives because I can't have long, sustained, methodical drives against this team?
I actually don't. I think what it came down to is they knew they could take advantage of the Bears secondary. They tried to hit some deep stuff. The problem was they trusted Brandon Parker too much, and we've heard Gruden and Cable both call him the best swing tackle in the league, which we've argued against that. I wasn't against the move of playing him. I don't think it won or lost the game. I thought Parker did have some good snaps, and then he did have some bad snaps. But I just think they put too much trust into that offensive line, and they thought they could take some deep shots, and clearly that backfired. But the biggest thing to me in the game was the penalties. Like a lot, they couldn't run the ball, and then they were always in 2nd and long, 3rd and long, and it just didn't really play to the strengths of what they were trying to do. And the defense tried to do as much as they could, but when you're getting 2, I don't think I've ever seen a game where you had 2 holding penalties on the same play, and then it happened to them twice on the same drive. So they're going to have to clean up the penalties. And before we figure out the offensive line and the run game and what the offensive passing game should look like, you're getting multiple false starts and multiple holding penalties in a game. It's going to stall every offense.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is. It puts you completely behind the sticks, and then you can't really get off of that as well. Do they